Are you a fan of James O'Brien on LBC? I certainly am. I listened to something that was on his show only a while ago, and I just want to kind of amplify and expand on it a little bit. He talked about the sociopaths that voted Tory. He talked about them in some detail, but I think there is a long history to that, and it's been developing since the time of Thatcher. Now, I was a teenager when Thatcher was around. Even during the miners' strike, I was still a teenager. But one thing I remember distinctly is Thatcher saying there is no such thing as society. Just let that sink in for a bit. Society, just think of that word. Social. Society, social, not a great step, is it? Socialism, yeah? Community, communist. Communism, yeah? Not a great step. But let that sink in, what Thatcher said. There is no such thing as society. So what did she put in its place? You watching this, me recording it. Loads, billions and billions of yous and me's. Individual little units. Beautifully lined up, whatever. Who was most important to each of those individual units? Well, themselves, of course. I think it's in the book Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. There's been recently an excellent series of it done by Channel 4. But I think it's the character Yossarian who says to Major, from now on, I'm thinking only of myself. Major's reply is classic. But what if everybody else thought that way? Yossarian's answer is equally brilliant and brutal. Well, then I'd be a damn fool to think any other way, wouldn't I? That statement sums up individualism. Yeah? Individualism. What was Thatcher about? Individualism. Yeah? Who was the most important person in Thatcher's world? Probably her. Yeah? Therefore, we're not a society, we're a group of individuals. Now then, how do communities come about? How do societies even function? We must have to act collectively to get anything to work. The collective numbers of workers in any industry or organisation produce the results, whether it be cars, ideas or computers. No one person can produce that results. Even a famous little one that seems to get quoted all the time in workplaces, there is no I in team, and team stands for TEAM. Together, everybody achieves more. So there's Thatcher going on about rampant individualism, and even in workplaces, even in, I don't know, the armed services, yeah? Where, you know, you're part of your unit, you're part of your team, you serve on your ship. Your ship's company is a team, and in charge of your ship's company is the captain, and you are Team Nelson, or whatever, right? Working together, cooperatively, not just living and existing only for ourselves. My answer is that human beings are naturally social creatures. we gravitate towards others. If we were not naturally social creatures, then why would solitary confinement be so devastating? Why would it be such a brutal form of punishment to take an individual away from any contact with any other individuals and just to leave them alone? It's the most brutal form of punishment out, solitary confinement. Yeah? Again, what I'm trying to argue for is that Thatcher was wrong. And that has been taken forwards. And so many people now just think they are everything. They are all that matters. This Christmas, what they get will matter. Maybe to some what they give will matter as well, but what they get will matter the most. Building themselves up, grasping, achieving, not just in terms of money, not just in terms of possessions, but almost a kind of emotional greed, an emotional grasping to continually build up this sense of I am. And by I am, we perhaps are also saying, you are not. I am, you are not. Doesn't that look remarkably close to survival of the fittest? I know if I was to interpret Darwin correctly, actually Darwinism, I believe, says survival of those most adapted to their environment. Yeah? It's quite something to think about. Now, I know this does have a kind of a political implication. But going back to this, what James O'Brien was hinting at was saying that the people who voted Conservative, whether it be they couldn't care less about the NHS, or whether they didn't even care about whether their kids would be educated, or whether people would be starving to death on the streets, it didn't really matter to them, yeah? Because they only cared about me. Now, there's a particular kind of rich person, a particular kind of well-provided person, a particular kind of person who perhaps gives it the old, well, I pulled myself up to the boot by the bootstraps and what I've got has been by my own effort and I'm not giving any of it away. Yeah? And why should my taxes pay for your health care if you haven't earned it? Because of society. Because there will be things that individuals cannot afford, but they really need. And if we get together, we can make those things a basic right. We can provide them for everybody. Another point James O'Brien mentioned was that, yes, perhaps there will be times when lazy, sitting on the dole, doing nothing, getting everything, claiming for the whole lot, just doesn't do any work. Yeah? Not because they can't, but because they genuinely don't want to, okay? Because they expect just to be supported. Unfortunately, that's a price that you have to pay for having a social safety net. Because if you so want to obliterate anybody's chance at doing that, yeah, you then cut away all of that safety net. You cut it away for people who can't work. You cut it away for long-term sick and disabled people. You cut it away for mentally ill people. You cut it away for people too old to work. You cut it away for people who've just fallen on bad circumstances, bad times. And that little insurance scheme that was there that you were paying into and I was paying into and everybody was paying into that might one day have helped you is no longer there. And then you can say, no one can languish on the dole because there isn't any. Yeah? The guy who is still in bed when I'm twitching my curtains to get up in the morning because he just doesn't want to get out and up and go to work, yeah? And he's taken too many drugs. Well, either he works or he dies. And that is essentially what James O'Brien was saying. These people are of the opinion, effectively, if you lose your job, you die. You die. That's frightening. And it's frightening that people who I genuinely do believe think like that managed to vote Tory. All I'm going to say to them is the Tories will come for you in the end. Yeah? Once they've taken away the unions, once they've stopped all collective bargaining, once they've decided that certain groups are just not allowed to strike, once they've come and taken care of all the sick and the disabled and the unemployed, then they're coming for you. And when you lose your job and your savings run out and your redundancy runs out and there is nothing left and then you have sold your house and all you have, you are going to be the ones who will freeze to death and die on the streets. Philosophical about the whole thing now. No longer angry, no longer vehement, totally philosophical. But I know where I stand, and I'm happy with my vote, and I'm happy with my principles, and I'm happy still to try and change the minds of others.